to the kind of videos I make, so definitely check them out right there. So anyway, you can see that I've already gone ahead and downloaded a lot of the games on those accounts so that I have access to be able to run them on my reversible PS4. So this is a good bunch of games from EchoStretch's account and my own account on here, including the sponsor for today's video, World of Warships Legends. What the Warships Legends is a free-to-play naval combat game where you get to command iconic warships from history and battle it out in epic 9v9 matches and exotic 3v3v3v3. The game is available on PlayStation and Xbox platforms, and for the first time ever, you can experience the same thrilling gameplay on mobile devices as World of Warships Legends launches on Android and iOS. Experience intuitive touchscreen controls with smooth navigation and console-like graphics, ensuring consistent gameplay across devices. There's also cross-gen and cross-progression, enabling the ability to seamlessly switch between platforms. Choose from destroyers for swift surprise attacks, cruisers for well-rounded combat, and battleships for devastating firepower. Plan your shots carefully and pick the right ships, weapons, and upgrades to suit your playstyle and strategy. There's over 400 ships from 11 different nations to command, and they keep things fresh by updating the game every 5 weeks with new ships, missions, and upgrades. If you sign up for the first time on mobile, you'll get your hands on some free offers for a solid start, like a premium ship, 7 days of premium access, 1.5 million credits, 400 doubloons, 3 big crates, 2 commander crates, and consumable camels. So don't miss out on these deals. Use my link in the description below and start sinking ships in World of Warships Legends today. So the restrictions that Sony actually puts on to make sure that you can only activate one console at a time. If I check my left PS4 here, you can see it is activated as the primary console for my account, for my Modded Warfare account here. So it is currently activated. So if I try and go on the other PS4 on the right and activate that PS4 as the primary console, when I try to do this, it's going to not allow me to. It's going to tell me that I have to first deactivate the left console in order to be able to activate the right console. So you have to deactivate the old console before it will let you activate the new one. Now there is one caveat to that, which is obviously if a console breaks and it's activated, then you have no way of deactivating it. So Sony has to provide another method. And the method they provide is going on PlayStation.com, signing into your account there. And there's a devices section there where you have an option to deactivate your devices, and that will deactivate your console. However, they only allow you to do this once every 6 months. That is a limitation they put on there so that you can't have multiple PS4s activated at the same time and just disconnect your internet connection. Okay, so I already have EchoStretch's account activated on my PS4, so my PS4 is primary for that account. I'm also going to do the same for my own account as well, so I'll have to first of all deactivate my account from the left PS4 in order for it to allow me to then activate it on my reversible PS4. And then once I get that all done and my right PS4, the reversible PS4 is activated, then we're basically all set at this point because we have all of the games downloaded and we have the PS4 set as primary, which means when we disconnect from the internet, we'll be able to continue to access those games that we've downloaded from those accounts. Okay, so now that I've got the accounts activated on this PS4 and I've got all of the games downloaded, what we're going to do now is back up the S-Flash and the Syscon as well as an image of our hard drive. This is what repair shops would typically do. They would just wire things up directly to the chip. Obviously, I've got my reversible PS4 that already has a hardware mod wired up to the NOR chip and the Syscon chip, which will allow me to do this quite easily. So all I've got to do here is unplug my PS4, flick the switch to on, or the hardware flasher, and then if I remove the front plate here, you can see that I've got my hardware flasher chip there. All I need to do is plug that into my computer, and that will allow me to read and write to the Syscon and NOR chip. So at this point, what I'm going to do here is just use the Sysco writer from App Carino, and I'm going to dump the full Syscon flash, and I'll just select a location on my computer to dump. So I'm just going to back up the Syscon here from when the PS4 is activated. So we're just going to go ahead and get that all done. Okay, and with that done, I'm going to also use SPIWay to back up my NOR flash as well from the NOR chip, which is a pretty similar process. I just use this SPIWay.bat file and get the information from the chip to make sure it's detected. And then I'm going to dump the actual chip itself. I'm going to dump the firmware on the chip. Using the dump option, I'll just give it a location again and call it sflash.bin, and I will create a backup of that as well. So now I have a backup of the firmware that's on the Syscon chip and the NOR chip, because these chips contain specific data for the activation, for the PS4 activation. So we're going to go ahead and back those up. So now that we have those backed up, the next step is to back up the hard drive image. Now, technically, there's two ways that this could be done. You could use a second hard drive to deactivate and then put the original hard drive back in. That's what repair shops would typically do because it's faster than imaging the hard drive. I don't have a second hard drive to use right now, so I'm just going to image my PS4 hard drive to create a backup of it with all of the games and the licenses. So to do this, I'm just going to use HDD raw copy, and I'm going to select the source as the PS4 hard drive, and then the destination is going to be a image file, which I'm just going to write to a hard drive on my computer, and then I can restore it later. I'm just going to go ahead and do that, but that will take a while to run through. Okay, so now that that is all complete, I have rebooted the PS4 back up again now that we've backed up those three key pieces of data, our syscon flash, our NOR flash, and of course, our hard drive image. So now all I need to do is reconnect to the internet on this reversible PS4 and deactivate those accounts. So I'm going to deactivate my Modern Warfare account so that this PS4 is no longer the primary PS4 for that account. So I'm just going to go ahead and deactivate it, and then I'm going to do the same thing with Echo Stretch's account as well and deactivate his account from my console. And this will free up the accounts. They'll no longer be activated on a console, allowing them to be activated again on another PS4 in future. So we'll go ahead and do that. So now that that's done, now that the console's no longer activated, all we need to do is restore that backed up data. Because when we restore that backed up data, it will essentially reactivate the console again, because that backed up data is the data from those chips when it was activated. So that is essentially how we can activate it offline. So all I need to do is basically repeat the process I did before, more or less, where I'm just going to, hook up my hardware flasher again back up to the computer. And for the North chip, I will just write the backup, the S-Flash backup that we took onto the North chip. So just write that backup, and it takes a few minutes. And then once that's done, I will use the syscon writer as well to write our backed up syscon that we took originally. So we will write the full syscon flash, and we'll browse for our syscon backup file that we took, and we will write that back onto the PS4. So this is essentially reverting the PS4 back to the state that it was in when it was activated, which should reactivate the console. So we're just going to go ahead and let that write. Okay, so now that that's done, we should be all good. All we need to do now is restore our hard drive image. So once again, I'm going to hop on HDD raw copy with the PS4 hard drive connected up to the computer, and I'm going to select the source this time as the image file that we created before. Select that as the source, and then the target is going to be our hard drive itself. And we're going to write that image file back onto the hard drive, which contains all of the activated licenses, as well as the games that have been downloaded onto that hard drive. Okay, so here we are booting up the console again after restoring that data. So at this point, if we sign into the Modded Warfare account, you can see we don't get signed out of the left one because, of course, we're offline on the right PS4. However, we are still activated now on the right PS4, so everything is now activated. I'm able to access all of those games that were locked before. They're all accessible again because we have reactivated this PS4. So I can run, say, something like, Black Ops 3. I can also run Black Ops 3 on the left PS4 under the same account, and I'm able to launch them both at the same time. Now, another thing I can also do is I can also activate another PS4 on the Modded Warfare account again. So, for example, I'll take the left PS4 and I'll go over and activate it as the primary console. And you'll be able to see that despite the fact that the right PS4 is still activated right now, it allows me to activate the PS4 on the left because, as far as Sony's concerned, we deactivated the right PS4, but I've silently reactivated it by restoring that backed up data. So there we go. I now have access to all of the games on my account and Echo Stretcher's account on my right PS4. I also just activated Echo Stretcher's account on my left PS4 as well as my own, so I have access to the games from both of those accounts on both PS4s now. And that is essentially how this method works, and you can see how a repair shop could do this multiple times. So with every customer's PS4 that comes in, they just download those accounts that have all of the games on there onto those PS4s. They activate the PS4s as primary, they back up the syscon, the North flash, and the hard drive, and then they deactivate those accounts so that they're free to be